I wonder if they started at this moment to be like, what is about to happen? Because this is weird. This is starting to get really weird. Here's the thing. If actual harassment happened on set, then her wanting to retaliate against him for that would make sense. I'm doing a little special episode today. I'm going to talk about the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni trial, the motions for summary judgment that just got filed today. I'm going to go through about 3/4 of it. And just FYI, our regularly scheduled programming will be back after the new year. We just need a little reset. We need to get reorganized. We need to figure out what we're going to recap next. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, we're going to have some special episodes coming out. Cassie and I are going to do some individually, and this is one that I'm just particularly interested in. If you want to see more, please let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, follow, etc. And with all that said, let's get into it. Blake Lively, if you guys remember, accused Justin Baldoni of sexual harassment on the set of the movie It Ends With Us. And when that came out, she filed a complaint and the New York Times covered the complaint. And she talked about a bunch of really awkward, inappropriate situations on set where she was made to feel uncomfortable and made to feel as if she was being taken advantage of and shown videos without her consent, touched without her consent, talked about her body without her consent, fat shamed her. There were all of these complaints in it. And I read it and I was like, oh my God, another freaking feminist guy who hides behind this mask of being a feminist and like pro women and blah, 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 blah. A non-toxic man who at the end of the day is just like every single other predator in Hollywood. And it really pissed me off and it really made me feel bad for Blake Lively. And then the story came out, his side of the story came out. And ever since I've been following this because in my opinion, she has no evidence to support her claims of sexual harassment. And I want to be clear that I believe women. I believe women. But I think in this particular case, we're looking at someone who lied and mischaracterized in order to get what she wanted. And I don't know. I am so willing to like be wrong at the end of the day. Like, I hope that she didn't lie. I hope, because that really looks bad for all women who complain about harassment on the work set and get dismissed. This is so bad for that movement. So I hope that even if, objectively you would look at it and say like this doesn't classify or like qualify as harassment, we would still like I want to believe that she felt that way either way, that she truly felt uncomfortable and that she did not just mischaracterize the set of this movie. So I want to walk through the document, and then as we walk through it, I will talk about what I remember that's happened over the last year through discovery, everything we've found and learned. And yeah, I want to hear your guys' comments. I'm so open to being wrong because I know that I've been watching a lot of content creators, content that have been covering this who are like pro Justin Baldoni, if you will. And so it's totally possible that I have like a very biased lens on this. And so please let me know if you know something I don't. But let's walk through this. So this, I think, came out this morning, and I will go ahead and share the document. We'll walk through it. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, so this is the Southern District of New York, Blake Lively, the plaintiff, versus Wayfarer Studios, Justin Baldoni, Jamie Heath, who owns the studio, I think, or is a partner of the studio, Steve Sarowitz, who is the kind of funder of these movies, Melissa Nathan, who is the PR person for Justin Baldoni, the agency group PR LLC, Jennifer Abel, another PR person, Jed Wallace, another PR person, I believe, and then Street Relations. I think that might be his company. Let's just quickly go over who these people are. So Jamie Heath and Steve Sarowitz are all part of Wayfarer Studios. I believe that Jamie Heath was often on the set. I don't believe that Steve Sarowitz really was. He was sort of just like kind of he funds the whole studio, I think, or primarily funds it. And ends with us movie. Melissa Nathan, the agency group PR, and Jennifer Abel, I think they're all part of that same PR group. Melissa Nathan was the PR person for actually, let me check this really quick. Yes, she was hired by Justin Baldoni. Um, and she was also associated with the Johnny Depp Amber Heard. So she was the crisis PR person that they hired. And then that was Melissa Nathan, I believe, right? Is that what I said? And then Jen Abel, I think, owns that. Um, I believe those two people worked for the PR company and were both on Justin Baldoni's like PR team. But we'll probably learn more here. I kinda get all the PR people confused. I will give you, like, a really quick summary. Basically, Justin Baldoni's PR person, whichever one of these people that is, Justin Baldoni's PR person had some text had come out in the complaint in the New York Times that said that we could bury her, right? And so that out of context text came out in that complaint, and everybody thought, "Oh my gosh, there was a smear campaign, smear campaign against Blake Lively to, like, ruin her reputation," and that Justin Baldoni's team, like PR team, facilitated that smear campaign because this text came out. And what we've learned since is that, according to them, under oath and everything, I believe, they're like, we never actually did the campaign. We said we could. We were kind of waiting in the wings because there was so much drama and there were so many issues on set that Justin Baldoni's team were like gearing up to protect themselves and to defend themselves if they needed to, but they never actually ended up needing to do that because there was so much organic conversations about Blake Lively that were negative about the way that she marketed the film, about her, embracing the florals and marketing not one but two of her products on the marketing of the movie and all of this, that they were like, it's done for us. We didn't even need to do anything, but we could have if we needed to. Then what happened was Blake Lively thought that a smear campaign had been conducted because Justin Baldoni's PR person's phone records were subpoenaed by a shell company. I might be using the wrong words here, guys. I'm not like a lawyer, but like by a shell company owned by Ryan Reynolds and Blake Lively. They used that company to subpoena the phone records from the PR company. Now, how did they know to subpoena those records and that they would find something in there? They knew that because the woman who owned the PR company told them that. And they said, subpoena the records and you can have the phone records. His PR gal got fired and her phone number was not released to her until the records were subpoenaed. So it was this whole thing where that's how they kind of got a hold of all of these text messages. And that's where Blake Lively, I think, got the idea that a smear campaign had been done. But there is so far no evidence of that. And there's no evidence of that, so much so, and we'll probably get into it. For months, they've been trying to find discovery. They've been doing discovery, trying to find evidence of this smear campaign. They have gone as far as to subpoena content creators on YouTube, like people with very little followings who have just been following the case. They've been subpoenaed to see if they were part of some sort of like paid media campaign. They have found no evidence of that at all. And so now what they're claiming is that their team and everybody involved must have deleted everything, that they didn't save the records, and that's why there's no evidence of it. That's their claim. And honestly, I genuinely believe Blake Lively thinks that this happened. I genuinely believe that she does not understand why she got so much negative press. And I think that's what happens when you're surrounded by yes people and sycophants and assholes. Okay, so that's just my opinion. These are all my opinions. Okay, so let's get into the document. By the way, I really liked Blake Lively before this. I think she's beautiful. I thought I loved Gossip Girl. I've seen her in other movies, and I'm like, she's better than I thought she would be. But I think she's only really good at playing herself, and that actually became clear when she rewrote the script of this movie, which we'll get into, and wanted the character to be more like her. And she had never even read the book. Okay, so let's get into it. All right. So, table of contents. Baldoni conceived and originated a project to develop It Ends With Us into a film to broaden awareness of domestic violence. Actually, I'm not going to go through this whole table of contents because I'm sure we're going to get into all of it. But this is kind of our outline. I just quickly read through this before I decided to hop online of their argument that this whole thing should be dismissed because there's not evidence of it. And really quick, again, the motion for summary judgment is Wayfarer's declaration of the facts. And now it's the judge's job to decide, is everything that they say in this an objective fact, or is it up for interpretation? And if it can be up for interpretation, it goes to jury. This is my understanding based on what the research that I've done about a motion for summary judgment. So basically, their team is saying is this whole thing needs to be dismissed, and here's all the evidence why none of her claims can be true. So that's what we're looking at right now. All right, let's get into it. I don't know how much of this I'm going to be able to get to. 77 pages, but we'll get through as much as we can while my baby sleeps. Okay. So, Baldoni conceived and originated a project to develop It Ends With Us into a film to broaden awareness of domestic violence. Wayfarer Studios is a production studio, purposeful social change. Justin Baldoni and Steve Sarowitz are the co-founders of Wayfarer Studios. Sarowitz is the investor. He's like a billionaire guy. Jamie Heath is the CEO of Wayfair. They had the podcast together, Man Enough, Baldoni and Heath. Baldoni is an acclaimed actor, director, blah, 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 blah. Baldoni has written 2 books on gender-related topics, focusing on the question of masculinity and addressing, among other issues, the importance of mutual consent, one of which was a New York Times bestseller. So this is kind of his whole personal brand is I'm a not toxic male, and I talk about not being a toxic male and how I deprogrammed from toxic masculinity. In February 2019, Baldoni met Colleen Hoover, author of the smash success It Ends With Us, a novel that addresses the issues of domestic violence. Baldoni and Hoover discussed how the book could be adapted into a film, and on May 8th, 2019, Hoover agreed to sell Baldoni the rights to the film, in part due to Baldoni's ability and experience approaching sensitive topics in his prior films. In September 2022, Baldoni and Wayfarer sought to, and eventually did, partner with No More, an organization dedicated to ending domestic violence and sexual violence. In other words, they put their money where their mouth is, I think is what this is saying. This is meant to be a film about raising awareness about domestic violence and what it can look like and how it can be hard to leave, is my interpretation of that. There's some redactions in here, of course. I think they redacted a lot of stuff to protect the identities of people, including Taylor Swift, and they redacted just stuff. I think to protect identities and to protect specifics. And by the way, this is PR also. And that's something we do have to keep in mind. They know that this will be out there and they know that people will read it and dissect it. They know that a lot of people are following this case. And so it's important to remember that they have very much in mind. Okay. So they're just saying this was in good faith, they were going to donate money to good causes. And in the early publicity planning for the film, Sony emphasizes the need to center the blank of the story redacted of the story. Sony cautioned redacted. I'm wondering if in there they're saying we want to emphasize the sexual harassment part, or sorry, the domestic violence part of the film. Establishing a separate entity. Okay, so there's a separate entity established to produce the film. I think they're just laying the groundwork for what we'll see in this document. Establishing a separate entity for each individual film production is common in the film industry, blah, 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 blah. Utilizing a separate project-specific entity is also necessary in order to, for example, calculate net proceeds, profit, etc. It Ends With Us company maintained its own bank accounts and funds separate from Wayfarer. Wayfarer and its employees provided some administrative, legal, and operational support to that company on the film. So they were involved, but it wasn't it was still its own kind of entity. Sarowitz was not involved in the production of the film. That's what I had understood. And he did not supervise or manage anyone in Wayfarer Studios during that film. Before Blake Lively joined the production, filming was set to begin in 2023 under Baldoni's direction. Lively committed to a role with adult and sexual themes. B. The book It Ends With Us is well known for sexual content. Yes. Redacted in or about December of 2022. After having met with Baldoni, Lively accepted to an offer to play the film's female lead, Lily Bloom. Jamie Heath expressing that we're good on the financial terms for Blake. She's excited to do the film. So she probably wanted a lot of money. In mid-December 2022, and then Mia Mezian, Wayfair's VP of Business and Legal Affairs, sent Lively's representative a draft offer letter setting out the basic parameters under which Lively would agree to perform the role of Lily Bloom in the film. As is standard in the film industry, the proposed agreement for Lively's services was not between Lively herself or Wayfair. The agreement intended parties were between the company set up for the film and Blake Lively's business entity. It's a corporation formed around one individual, typically for tax purposes, which then loans the services of the individual for a fee. Okay. So Blake Lively is like a product for the company, if that makes sense. Her own company. On or about April 27th of 2023, Lively signed an escrow agreement to facilitate payments from the company of the movie. Shortly before the offer letter was finalized, pursuant to the escrow agreement, the movie company wired Lively's upfront fee of $1.75 million, less than 6.37 New Jersey withholding tax, to Lively's client trust account at WME. It did not withhold federal income. I'm not sure why that's relevant, but maybe we'll get there. The offer letter was finalized in May of 2023. And as discussed below, the offer letter expressly provided that full execution of a long-form agreement regarding of the terms of Lively's engagement with the conduction precedent of the movie's company, obligations to Lively thereunder. Okay. No long-form agreement, as described in the offer letter, was ever executed by the parties. I think that, in other words, means she never signed it. I understood that she never signed it. So I think maybe we'll get there. Before accepting the role, redacted, the script Lively reviewed under scenes of sexual intimacy, intimate partner violence, and attempted sexual assault. So maybe it says before accepting the role, like she reviewed the script and agreed to it or something. Maybe we'll see. Lively worked to revise the script before filming began. Her written work product included frank sexual language and overtly sexual themes. For instance, in April 2023, Lively sent Baldoni a revised draft for the scene in which Lively's character, Lily Bloom, and Baldoni's character, Ryle Kincaid, first meet on the rooftop of the building. The rooftop scene, Lively explained she revised the scene to include redacted. Her draft called for redacted. I'm assuming that's pretty explicit content, whatever happened in that scene. I can't remember specifically. I think they're making a point here. Like, she wasn't uncomfortable with sexual themes. Like, before the movie even started, she was sending us revised versions of the script, having not read the book, revised versions of the script that had sexual content in it. So to suddenly claim that she was uncomfortable with the sexual content is not matching up, right? Okay, so on May 5th of 2023, Baldoni sent Lively some notes on the script from Sony executive Angie Janetti, who wanted the scenes to involve more than just verbal interplay. Giannetti wrote, redacted. So I think they're saying, like, she wanted some content, like sexual content in it somehow. Lively exercised substantial control from the outset. Now, remember, she was only hired to be an actress. So the fact that she's even rewriting the script, I think, is like relatively outside of the norm. But given probably her status in Hollywood, the fact that she's an A-list actress, whether she's a good actress is kind of not the same thing, not mutually exclusive for being an A-list actress. She is an A-list actress. Lively exercised substantial control. So Lively immediately exercised substantial influence over the development and shooting of the film. At Lively's request, Wayfarer agreed to abandon its intended filming location, Boston, where Hoover's novel was set, and to accept Lively's choice of New Jersey to accommodate Blake. Okay, so she lives in New York City, so she asked, like, can it be closer to home? I'm assuming. That's why she wanted to do it. I remember because I was living in Jersey at the time, and they were filming in Jersey City. And God, was I living there at the time, or did I just see that on Instagram? And I was like, oh my gosh, right by where I used to live, because they were filming over in Hoboken. Okay, so which is just across the water from New York City. Wayfair also agreed to adjust the filming schedule to accommodate Lively's other obligations. Okay, there's a bunch of redacted stuff here, but it's highlighted for whatever reason, so maybe we'll get to it. Lively raised concerns about her physical appearance to Baldoni and others before filming. So, in a voice memo, February 2023, Lively asked if they could start shooting. Oh, if the start of shooting could be pushed back because I think she was feeling insecure about her postpartum body. Fair enough. And in February 2023, the next day, Baldoni comments that Lively must feel blank after redacted after resolving a personal dilemma. Lively responded, redacted. Baldoni disliked Lively's self-deprecating joke. Okay, so they were texting back and forth, and Baldoni was like, she must have like put herself down, which she tends to do in conversation in like kind of a joking way. She's not very funny, but I think she thinks she's funny. My opinion. Anyway, on February 17th, so about a week later, Lively asked Baldoni redacted. Baldoni responds redacted. So I'm just going to kind of skip all this redacted stuff because it's not really very helpful right now. I don't know what's supposed to be there, and I don't want to totally speculate based on nothing. Before filming began, Lively used famous friends to press Baldoni to accept her revision to the script before filming. Okay, so she had a revision to the script, and what we understand, I think, is that she worked with Ryan Reynolds and Taylor Swift, or at the very least, she had Taylor's support in presenting her version of the script. I think they were like, you go, girl. You can do this, kind of a thing. I think they were just cheering her on. I don't know. I think Ryan had more of a say in a lot of it. He allegedly rewrote the rooftop scene. And he allegedly wrote the rooftop scene while there was a writer's strike. So he broke the rule, and that's a big no-no in Hollywood, especially if you're a big A-list actor, because like you need to stand with the smaller guys who are the people that are really getting hurt and who are really trying to fight for their rights. Okay. So it's a dick move. Lively sent Baldoni her proposed revision to the rooftop scene in which two main characters first meet. By the way, like this is a part of the book, so the fact that she rewrote it is odd, I think. A lot of this is redacted. He said he liked the revised scene, and he added redacted. Lively explained redacted. So I think I think I remember texts coming out about this, and they had kind of gone back and forth. And he's like, I like it. I can't accept all of it, but I can accept some of it. And then she was like, Taylor Swift is my dragon, or whatever she said, Khaleesi thing. Lively has since disclosed that her husband, Ryan Reynolds, actually wrote the revision to the rooftop scene that she proposed. There it is. Defendants took steps to create a safe set prior to filming. Wayfair has a set of industry standard policies and procedures in place to prevent harassment, discrimination, and retaliation. All Wayfarer Studios employees, office, blah, 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 prohibited from engaging in unlawful discrimination, harassment, and or retaliation. The anti-harassment policy also applies to vendors, blah, 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 blah. In other words, everybody's protected under this rule. Wayfair has a complaint process to address alleged instance of harassment, discrimination, and or retaliations. Individuals who, and then it quotes, individuals who believe they have been the victims of prohibited conduct should discuss their concerns with their immediate supervisor, any member of management, or human resources. Wayfair has a human resources department headed by Cynthia Barnes Slater and an assistant to Slater. So they have a department for this. Wayfair employees are required to participate in workplace harassment training. Baldoni participated in training approximately every 2 years. Sarowitz is not involved in the day-to-day operations of Wayfarer, and he is not responsible for administering their harassment policies. I think they're just saying, like, listen, we talked about this before the film started. We have rules on how to escalate concerns. This is the proper channel to escalate concerns. And I think they're going to make the point, like, that proper channel was not followed. Instead, she went to the New York Times with a complaint. Lively was under no obligation to engage in any nude or simulated sex scenes without her consent. The offer letter provided that Lively would not perform any nudity simulated sex without her prior written consent and execution of a formal nudity rider. In other words, I have written and agreed to whatever we're doing. Like, I agreed to it ahead of time. So I can't come back later and say it made me feel like it felt inappropriate if I agreed to it ahead of time. Consent can be withdrawn at any time. I want to be clear, like, if it was different than she expected it to be or whatever, she has every right to be like, this is actually getting weird, but that is what an intimacy coordinator is for, which I'm sure we'll get to. Before filming began, Elizabeth Talbot was hired to serve as an intimacy coordinator for the film. Baldoni wrote to Lively, redacted. Baldoni reported to the production team, seems that Lively doesn't want to meet with the intimacy coordinator until we start, which may mess up the workflow, but I can still meet with her, of course. Alex Sachs, one of the film's producers, responded, "That's fine if Lively doesn't want to meet the intimacy coordinator now. You'll just have to walk her through what you and the intimacy coordinator are thinking." So they're going to make the point. Like, later on, she was like, there was no intimacy coordinator, but they're saying, like, from the outset, we hired one. Before filming start, we hired one. She refused to meet with the intimacy coordinator. Okay. On May 4th of 2023, before any filming had begun and months before any shooting of the film's intimate scenes would take place, the intimacy coordinator considered the content of anticipated intimate scenes and suggested details and clarifications to both Baldoni and Heath. While expressing concern that the scenes were becoming too PG-13 as compared to more explicit scenes in the book, Baldoni suggested that the intimacy coordinator discuss with Lively whether there were other ways of implying nudity that she would consider so as not to disappoint readers while also expressing sensitivity for Lively's boundaries. He wrote, redacted, the intimacy coordinator agreed to have any necessary conversations to get clarity for the scenes, so both Baldoni and Lively are confident about the level of contact during the scenes. There's a bunch of redacted content. On or about May 8th, 2023, Lively and Baldoni were provided with nudity writers detailing their consent and boundaries concerning intimate scenes. On May 5th of 2023, the company held a Respect in the Workplace Preventing Discrimination, Harassment, Retaliation meeting, and the training was administered by a lawyer, a law firm. Heath and Baldoni both attended the training. It's not saying that Lively attended the training. I wonder if that means she didn't attend. I think they would say if she didn't attend, right? Maybe it's just because these are the defendants. Maybe a lawyer can, like, jump in here. All cast and crew were provided daily call sheets on the evening before each day of filming, which included a hotline number for workplace complaints, including sexual harassment, that directed them to a third-party organization to assist with any complaints. In other words, there is a proper channel to report things, and it is a hotline, and it's a third-party organization, so they're not loyal to anyone on this set. So it doesn't matter if it's the person that's running the set or the person that brings the snacks. If that person committed sexual harassment, then this third party wants to know about it and is not loyal to whatever, right? No intimate scenes involving Lively were shot in the first phase of filming. So I think part of maybe what they were saying above is she was feeling insecure about her body. Maybe didn't want to have any, like, nudity scenes or anything where she was exposed during the beginning of filming, maybe while she wanted to, like, lose a little more weight or get more fit or whatever. Her insecurities were, which I can completely understand that. I mean, in Gossip Girl, she was I mean, yeah, she was young, but she was very thin. And so in a lot of her films, she's been very thin, but she's had like 4 kids, 5 kids, something like that. And your body just changes and things don't go back to the way they were. And I can imagine it would just be so crippling to see yourself in a just so different than the way you looked, and just imagining what that must feel like to not look the way you once did when the reason that you were valued was primarily because of your looks. That sucks, doesn't it? My ego could not handle. So I don't blame her at all for being like, I feel insecure. How many layers of clothes can we put on me so that I don't look, so that you can't see how much weight I've gained or whatever? All filming during the first phase of filming, all f- during the first phase of filming took place in New Jersey. None of Lively's sexually explicit scenes or scenes involving simulated nudity were rehearsed or filmed during this initial period. Those scenes were rehearsed and filmed during a later phase of filming without issue or incident. Okay, so in other words, we filmed it later and still nobody said anything. There were no complaints. She didn't say she was uncomfortable. She didn't complain to any of the channels that she had an option to complain to. Nothing was said. A scene in which Lively's character gives birth was filmed on May 22nd. This is important because, yeah, there's some claims that she made about this, not only this scene being uncomfortable for her, later on she said this, but that Heath showed her an inappropriate video that she claimed she thought was, so we'll get to that. I wonder if I'm allowed to say all these words. Lively claims that the birthing scene constituted an intimate scene because there was implied nudity. Footage of the birthing scene shows Lively covered with a hospital gown and a prosthetic pregnancy belly. A bunch of redacted content. Um, on June 11th, before young Lily and young Atlas intimate scene was filmed, Baldoni flagged to the production team that they would need to coordinate and work with the intimacy coordinator. Bunch of redacted. Farrer, the girl who plays young Lily, also wrote to Baldoni to thank him for an incredible. So I imagine all of those points were like what happened between those actors and the intimacy coordinator. I imagine it's making the point that like they also worked with the intimacy coordinator and had no complaints. Farrer has had like texted him and said it was an incredible experience. You are such a wonderful, smart, sincere director, and you created such a comfortable and safe workplace. I could fully step into this role. I couldn't have asked for a more welcoming environment. It will stay with me for the rest of my life. 2 explanation points. Okay. So this was, let's see, right after, so sometime in June of 2023, potentially, maybe a little after that. All of the incidents Lively raised occurred during or before the first phase of filming. So in other words, she's saying all the times that she claimed sexual harassment were before the first phase of filming. During or before? Okay, during or before the first phase of filming. In other words, before any of the sexually explicit scenes happened. In her second amended complaint and deposition testimony, Lively points to various alleged incidents prior or during the first frame of filming, which she alleges amounted to sexual harassment and contributed to a hostile work environment. Okay, then there's a bunch of redacted content. On February 28th, 2023, after that initial meeting, okay, so I think that this redacted content, we'll probably get to it, but she, after the strike, I think, or something like that, they all came back to set. But before they came back to set, she made, and I mean made, like coerced Baldoni into signing a document with like a bunch of points on it of what she no longer wanted to have on set. I think that's what this is referring to. So she had him sign this document that was like, no more XYZ things happening on set. No more showing me inappropriate videos on set. No more walking into my trailer while I'm nude on set. And he was coerced essentially into signing that. Otherwise, she wouldn't come back to the film. And what they claim is that for the most part, all of that stuff wasn't happening. that it was meant to frame it like it had been happening, but it hadn't been happening. And so then she can reference that later and be like, see, I was uncomfortable, even though she, before that moment, had never sent up any complaints to any proper channels, had never said anything to anyone. As far as everyone knew, she was totally comfortable with everything that had happened so far. So I think that's what it's saying. And at this meeting where they coerced Baldoni into signing the document, Ryan Reynolds was there, and allegedly Taylor Swift was there. Okay? So, after the initial meeting, I think that's what they're referring to, Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds, wrote to Baldoni, redacted. Well, maybe we'll find out more. On or around April 23rd, 2023, outside of the workplace and outside of the presence of Wayfarer Studios, Baldoni privately asked a personal trainer he had consulted with, who was working separately with Lively, what Lively would weigh when filming began. Baldoni, who suffers from chronic back issues, asked in anticipation for a scene. And she basically, like, he had to lift her in the air. And she had claimed that this was fat shaming. Okay. Can we just, like, take that in for a moment? He asked a third party how much she weighs or would weigh so that he knew how much he would have to pick up. I think she wasn't even there, like present for it, and she still claimed it was fat shaming. Okay. Documentary evidence shows that Baldoni contemplated including such a scene in the film as late as December 28th, 2023. Baldoni never made the same comment in Lively's presence or in the presence of any cast or crew member. The trainer, acting on his own, decided to share the comment with Lively. On or about April 25th, Baldoni met with Lively at her apartment. Oh, okay, so this is the apartment scene where he had her sign the list. She had him sign the list. Exhibit 83, so we'll see it. Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds, and two other famous friends, Taylor Swift and somebody else, chastised Baldoni for commenting on a woman's weight. I see. Okay, so the comment about the weight happened, and that's when she was like, here's my list. Lively subsequently described the meeting to a friend as follows, redacted. Lively also alleged that Baldoni shamed Lively for her body and weight by offering to connect her with a specialist in probiotics after Lively caught strep throat because Lively alleges the expert was instead a weight loss specialist. That's ridiculous. I'm sorry. That's ridiculous. Lively was not offered any admissible evidence supporting that claim. She did not discuss it during her deposition, and she has not produced any documentary evidence indicating that the expert was a weight loss specialist. Documentary evidence shows that Baldoni discussed Lively's illness with the specialist and not her weight. So, in other words, there's documented proof that he never said, like, she needs to lose weight. Can you connect with her or whatever? In late April 2023, before filming began, Sony exec Angie Giannetti. Oh, okay, so we still have not gotten to the list, I don't think. Sorry. I guess there was a different meeting before. I don't know every detail because obviously I don't know every detail. Encouraged Baldoni to shoot an R-rated film to reflect the content of the book. I will update Sony. You are going to try and get as much tasteful hot sex as you can. This is what Lively wrote. I will update Sony. You are going to try and get as much tasteful hot sex as you can. You find out if we are PG-13. Will Colleen be okay? And does she think her readers will be okay? Baldoni discussed Giannetti and Sony's suggestion. Oh, this was Giannetti saying, encourage Baldoni to shoot an R-rated film to reflect the content of the book. Okay, I see. So Angie Giannetti, the Sony exec, was like, we should make this R-rated. It's more in alignment with the book's content, and that's what we would like to see. So that was Sony's idea. Baldoni discussed Giannetti and Sony's suggestion about additional and more explicit scenes with Lively and Colleen Hoover. On or about May 4th, 2023, Baldoni worked with Elizabeth Talbot, the film's intimacy coordinator, to add specific scenes to the intimate scenes. He suggested Talbot discuss the scenes with Lively to determine how to portray more sexual intimacy in a manner consistent with Lively's personal boundaries and preferences. In other words, intimacy coordinator was tapped to help. A bunch of redacted content. Such discussion took place in the context of planning and choreographing a sex scene. Lively first volunteered her own personal experience before Baldoni shared his. Okay. Because she claimed that he, like, unprovoked, talked about his own sexual experience, and made her uncomfortable by doing that, and he's saying, like, she brought it up first. Baldoni has publicly discussed his prior addiction to oh, that's right. He talked about an addiction to um, and with her, I think, and I think he was saying, like, "When I was young, I was, without my consent, exposed to younger than I would have wanted to be, and it kind of changed the way I think about these things." Um, okay, so Heath briefly enters Lively's makeup trailer. This is part of the evidence because Blake Lively alleges that they were, like, entering her makeup trailer without her consent and when she was nude or changing or breastfeeding, and that it made her uncomfortable and she didn't want them to do that anymore. So on one occasion, on or about May 16th, Heath entered Lively's makeup trailer while she was having her makeup removed. They had a brief conversation concerning a work-related issue. Redacted. It was about 2 or 3 minutes. He had been seeking to schedule a meeting with Blake, Baldoni, and Giannetti after several failed attempts. At the end of shooting for the day, Heath suggested that they meet the following day. Lively said that they could meet her at her makeup trailer to discuss the timing for the meeting, so he stopped by to do that. Heath knocked on the trailer door, and Lively said, "Come in," and Lively asked Heath to turn around while he was speaking to her, and he did. As I took a step up, I saw that she was leaned back. She looked what I thought was either maybe breastfeeding or nursing. I said to her, "Oh, it looks like you're busy. I can come back." And I turned around and she said, "No, that's okay. You can come in. Just look away." And I said, "Sure." Lively has testified, redacted. I wonder if that says, like, she confirms that that was the case or what. 2 weeks after the incident occurred and months before the litigation arose, Lively raised the incident with Heath for the first time. She told Heath, "I asked you to look away, and at some point you made eye contact with me. I'm not saying you were trying to cop a look. That sounds exactly like something she would say, cop a look. I'm just saying that I had asked you to turn away and you made eye contact with me." After expressing her displeasure, Lively moved on to other topics. Okay. So, yeah, I mean, I'm glad she said something, and I hope that he responded well because, yeah, that's fair enough. And maybe it was an accident and maybe it wasn't. And I think one thing I've thought about a lot during this case is usually where there's smoke, there's fire. And usually when there's a complaint about harassment or inappropriate behavior, once one person comes forward, especially a large name, there will be other people that come forward and say, "Yeah, that person has made me really uncomfortable too." Or, "Yes, this person sexually harassed me as well." Or, "Yes, there was a weird power dynamic and they exploited it." And we haven't really heard anything else, except there was another complaint from another actress on set. But when they detailed the complaint, it wasn't about harassment. What happened was she asked for a different apartment to be provided for her. And she was a single mom. I think it's the other Jenny Slate. She's a single mom or was parenting while she was there, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, of course, as a mother, we understand that, XYZ thing," and she felt uncomfortable in the way that they kind of, like, said that. But they still provided her with the apartment. Maybe we'll get to that. I don't know if it's gonna be in here or not. A scene in which Lively's character gives birth was filmed on or around May 22nd. While shooting the scene, Lively was wearing a hospital gown, a prosthetic belly, and fabric over her genitals. I think they said that she was wearing, like, a pair of, like, briefs, like, almost sheer briefs. Um, Lively alleged that the actor Baldoni knew was cast as the doctor. Oh, sorry. So basically she said that, like, Baldoni just hired some random guy to be the doctor and, like, look at my crotch is what she said. She alleged that it was, I don't know, just I don't know, that he, like, like, picked a guy to make her like, not maybe to make her feel uncomfortable, but that there was I guess I don't even know how she could spin it because he was an actor, and they're probably gonna get to this. The actor playing the doctor was a local union actor, and I think he also, like, studied acting. He was, like, a theater guy. Lively has subsequently alleged that Steve Sarowitz was present on set during that birthing scene, and that made her uncomfortable, she said. Sarowitz testified that he was not on set during the filming of the birthing scene. He arrived later after the scene was filmed, and in fact, he only visited the set twice. He visited briefly part of the one day for a few minutes, which happened to be the day of the birthing scene was shot, but not during the birthing scene. Some redacted content. Sarowitz later spoke to Adam Monchian, who appeared in the birthing scene, regarding events on the set. Monchian did not raise anything negative about this experience on set and shared a positive experience. He confirmed that Sarowitz was not on set during the filming of this scene. So, in other words, she either lied or misremembered. And I think that's going to be a big theme here. Okay. Sarowitz did not know what scenes were being filmed at any given time. He didn't have the script. He didn't know the schedule. You know, it wasn't, he didn't come on set to make her uncomfortable or to see her when she was naked. Okay. I think that's how she spun it. She was like, Baldoni hired a random dude who wanted to see me naked, essentially, is what she was saying. Yeah. Because birthing scenes are like, so, sexually charged. It's dumb. I'm sorry, it's dumb. He did not know about the birthing scene, is what it says. During his first visit on set, Sarowitz spoke to Brandon Sklenar. Brandon Sklenar played, I think, adult Atlas. Sklenar was effusive in his praise for Baldoni, his directing, Wayfarer, and how he had been treated in general. Basically saying, like, as far as we knew during the filming of the set, he was really happy with how everything was going and didn't have any complaints, which is important because later he takes Blake Lively's side or whatever. During the first visit, Sarowitz also spoke to Lively for a minute or two. It was a very friendly meeting, and she did not voice any complaints. Redacted. On or about May 18th, 2023, Baldoni commented that actor Jenny Slate looked sexy in her character's wardrobe, which included black leather pants. He made this comment in the presence of others during the course of their work on the film. On or about May 23rd, 2023, Lively testified, redacted. Video footage of the incident shows Lively was fully dressed in an oversized fleece onesie at the time. The numerous actors and crew were also present and engaged in ongoing work at the time. That Baldoni's facial expression was neutral, not ogling or suggestive, and that after Baldoni apologized if his remark was inappropriate, Lively responded by saying, "All good." There is a clip of this. I'm actually going to pull it up. So I think on or about May 23rd, Lively testified that, and then I think she says, like, Justin Baldoni said something that made me feel uncomfortable. I'm guessing is what she says here. And, like, let's look at the video. I hope you can hear this. I might have to add it in later. We'll see. Let's see. So Jenny Slate, I think, is like right here. Blake is right here, I think. You can't really see her. He says, "Are you comfortable?"
Ready, everybody? We really should go, please. So, again.
He looks like he's just talking to them.
Right? So please make sure that nobody's standing right here, please.
Okay. Yeah, there's Blake. You can see her, like, reddish hair there.
Ready.
He said it's sexy. I think that's when he said it's sexy. Let's see.
Somebody lock it up. Somebody lock it up.
I don't know. What do you guys think? Did that seem inappropriate, his comment?
Thank you.
I can see a world in which, like, it's like,
Whatever you do, you're always pantomime talking to one another. You're always saying.
sorry, I'm just listening. Okay, so now he's looking at Jenny Slate, I think. Yeah, they're all in like onesies for some reason. I think this is the filming of the scene. Okay, so yeah, I mean, that seems like the end of it. So what do you guys think? Did that seem inappropriate? The sexy comment? Did that seem in context of what was going on? I was gonna say I can see a world in which he knows that she's feeling insecure. If he was talking to her, I don't know if he's talking to Blake or Jenny Slate, but if he was talking to her, a world in which she feels insecure about her body, she's made that kind of clear, and maybe he's just trying to like make her feel confident. I don't know if you guys saw the outfits that she was wearing on the set of this show, but she looked or movie, but she looked ridiculous. She was wearing at least 2 pairs of pants at all times. Okay. So, yeah, basically they're claiming like that was inappropriate. Like that's the thing that she's saying was sexual harassment. Really? That's the thing? I think is what they're saying. Lively has testified that sometime in late May 2023, Heath Blank showed Lively an image of his wife giving birth. Lively said that she stopped watching the video because there was, I think this is, am I allowed to say that word? Heath and his wife had a home birth for their young daughter using a birthing tub. And Baldoni had asked Heath to show Lively a video of the experience, which Baldoni had previously seen, showing Heath and his wife in a birthing tub surrounded by their family. Heath testified that he showed Lively a video depicting our midwife, my sister, my kids, my wife, myself, and our newborn baby. I believe we were singing or praying. Heath and his wife were in a birthing tub with the baby, who was covered in a towel. Redacted content. This is what she had claimed was what I just said. Inappropriate. An inappropriate video. And I believe we actually have this video. I don't know if it's in this, but it has actually, I don't know if it's actually come out, but he provided it to her during discovery. And then she claimed that it wasn't the full thing. Lively also alleges that during the first phase of filming, while riding in a car with Lively, her assistant and her driver, Baldoni, stated that he had not always obtained consent before sex. Baldoni was not questioned about this incident during 2 days of depositions. Okay. He recalls a conversation with Lively in which he told her about his, so basically like her lawyers never asked about this, I think is what they're saying. Like, why wouldn't they ask about this? What I thought it was a moment in which you felt uncomfortable. He recalls a conversation with Lively in which he told her about his own experience of having a romantic partner go beyond his personal boundaries of consent. So he's saying, what I recall is telling her that I had my consent was taken away, not the other way around. In her complaint to the New York Times, she said the first thing. She said that he told her about a time when he had sex without consent. Baldoni has written about his experience in his book. Lively's subsequent conduct confirms Baldoni's account. In her protections demands, she objected to Baldoni referring to this type of thing. In a subsequent text exchange, redacted. I mean, yeah, I wish this stuff wasn't redacted, but okay, so Lively gets COVID in or about May 26th. Oh, and her baby. That sucks. And they got COVID on set. Other cast and crew members also got COVID. Lively included her COVID exposure in her list of incidents that required protections, as discussed below, and also alleges it as part of her sexual harassment complaints. Lively and another actor's concerns are promptly addressed before the first phase of filming continues. In an email on the same date, Lively asked redacted. Lively's email did not mention sexual harassment or discrimination or make any accusations that any conduct rising to that level had occurred. Okay, so in other words, they're saying like in Lively and another actor's concerns are promptly addressed before the first phase of filming. At this point, I think she's saying that she wants better COVID protocols on set. I think that was one of her demands. Fair enough. And I think the other concern is the Jenny Slate thing I just talked about. I think again, I'm like speculating based off of what I know about the case. Um, and up to now, she has not said anything about feeling uncomfortable on set. On May 28th, Lively discusses the production with a fellow cast member. In this communication, she redacted. She also said redacted. Okay, not helpful. Lively did not contact Wayfarer's HR department during the production, nor did she file a formal sexual harassment complaint with Sony or Wayfarer's HR department or at any time. Giannetti from Cynthia Barnes Slater confirming email from Cynthia Barnes Slater confirming that Blake Lively did not make a complaint to. Okay, so they're saying like, yeah, no complaints were made. On June 1st, Lively asked Baldoni, Heath, and producer Alex Sachs into her trailer. Lively discussed various topics, including Baldoni's comment that the wardrobe for Lively's character looked sexy or hot. Heath showed Lively an image of his wife around the time she gave birth, an instance in which Heath entered her makeup trailer while Lively was in a state of undress, an instance in which Baldoni had cried in her trailer over the negative public reaction to Lively's casting, and Heath and Baldoni's practice of hugging other cast and crew members. Okay. So basically, she brought them in the trailer and had a bunch of complaints on set. None of these things are sexual harassment exactly, but she's saying that these comments made her uncomfortable, I guess. So this was June. Baldoni and Heath attempted to explain the innocent context and apologize for any discomfort Lively may have experienced. Bunch of redacted content. In May 30th, wait, I thought this was in June. Okay, so I guess like the day before that or 2 days before that, Baldoni wrote messages to Blake and Slate separately, thanking them for their work and stating, I was made fully aware of your concerns. I wanted you to know that they are fully received. I hear you, and adjustments will be made accordingly. I appreciate your feedback and really look forward to working with you at the end of the week. Giannetti testified, the Sony producer testified, redacted. Neither Lively nor anyone else have identified any other incidents that they believe have constituted sexual harassment or discrimination after June 1st of 2023. Okay. So she brought them in the trailer, said all these things made me uncomfortable. They addressed it, I think is what they're saying. Sarowitz has no firsthand knowledge of anyone on the set of It Ends With Us advising Baldoni that any behavior was unwelcome. Okay. Prior to this litigation, Sarowitz was not aware of any formal HR complaints that were filed in connection with the film. Sarowitz was not aware of any SAG complaints that were raised concerning Baldoni's behavior on the set of the film, nor was he aware of any reported allegations or of misconduct prompting an HR investigation. In other words, there were absolutely no complaints made by anyone up to this point that like made it up the chain, that weren't just like directly handled with among themselves. Nor does Sarowitz have any knowledge of any actual behavior on the set that could be described as sexual advances or requests for sexual favors, verbal abuse of a sexual nature, commentary about an individual's body, sexual prowess, or sexual deficiencies, sexual jokes, innuendo, leering, whistling, touching, blah, 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 blah. Outside of the subject matter of the film itself. I think that's important here. Like we're making a film about a sexual relationship and of a sexual nature. So like these people aren't accountants. It isn't inappropriate to talk about these types of things on set because they're relevant to the set, okay? Sarowitz is not aware of any complaints raised on the set that were not resolved. He was aware that Jenny Slate had a concern on set at one point, but he was not aware of the specifics of the issue and believed it was resolved. To his knowledge, there were no additional issues or concern raised by Slate. I think this is like kind of outlining his testimony of what he knew, is I assume what this is talking about. Sarowitz has never met or talked to Slate. Sarowitz is unaware of any alleged complaints by Lively that Baldoni referred to her as sexy. On June 1st, redacted, filming halted on June 14th due to the Writers Guild of America and SAG after. Oh, okay. So he didn't rewrite. It sounds like Ryan didn't rewrite the scene during the strike, unless it's going to get to maybe they rewrote it. I don't know. We'll see. On July 19th, Approximately 1 month after filming had been interrupted due to the writer's strike, Lively wrote to redacted. And she wrote to her agent, redacted. Okay. During the next 2 months, Lively did not file any HR complaints. Okay. On November 9th, Lively's attorney sent a list of protections for return to production. Okay, so this is the list, the famous list, infamous. In the email accompanying the list, now I lost my place. Okay. Lively's attorney stated that the list was being provided to remedy the misconduct that Miss Lively and others had allegedly reported. Lively's attorney further stated that items on the list would need to be observed by the film's producers in order for Lively to feel safe returning to production. This email also stated, while we reserve all legal rights, at this stage our client is willing to forgo a more formal HR process in favor of everyone returning to work and finishing the film as long as the set is safe moving forward. In other words, I'm not going to file an HR complaint on you about these things that allegedly happened but maybe didn't. And maybe I'm not going to file that complaint because they didn't actually happen. So I have nothing to complain about. But I want you to sign this list. And that's the agreement in order for me to come back to set. It continued. This letter is not intended to be, nor should it be construed as, a waiver, release, or relinquishment of any of our clients' rights or remedies, legal or equitable, all of which are hereby expressly reserved. I don't really know what that means. So several of the requested protections were already substantially in place. Okay, so in other words, the protections that were on the list, like COVID protocols, and I think she mentions an intimacy coordinator in that list, like we already had those things. So you saying it in this complaint makes it sound like we didn't have these things when we did. And that's messed up. I wonder if they started at this moment to be like, what is about to happen? Because this is weird. This is starting to get really weird. This is when they say, like, we've already retained an intimacy coordinator. Should I scroll down to this item? Let's see. Intimacy coordinator. Lively requested a closed set for any scenes involving simulated sex or nudity. Okay, so she's saying, like, when I had the birthing scene, it was supposed to be a closed set. So Sarowitz wasn't supposed to arrive on the set. It was a closed set. Only agreed upon people were supposed to be there. I'm claiming he was there, but he wasn't there, right? So she was basically saying, like, he broke the rule. That's the point she's trying to make, even though he didn't. Lively also saw an exception to the closed set requirement for an unspecified representative of her choosing. Okay. I think that means Ryan Reynolds. The film's intimacy coordinator, allegedly, he was on the set a lot. Maybe we'll get to it. And by the way, he had nothing to do with this movie. Like he wasn't hired to do this movie. The film's intimacy coordinator had already sought Lively's input on all intimate scenes in advance, and the parties had negotiated a nudity rider that Lively had already been provided. Lively requested pre-approval of any scenes involving physical touching, simulated sex, nudity. The offer letter setting out the basic terms of Lively's participation already proved that there would be no nudity, simulated sex with the artist's prior consent. So, in other words, this was already in the agreement. In the offer letter that we sent you, we told you that this was okay. We're good with that. Like, we said that from the outset. Oh. My husband always, like, gets so annoyed with me because I leave my cups on, like, the side of things and then I knock them off. I don't know what to say. He's like, "Just don't put it on the edge of things and then you won't knock it off." And I'm like, "But that would be too easy. I like to live with a little thrill." Lively requested that any footage involving any nudity and or simulated sex previously shot without the nudity rider in place could not be used. There was a nudity rider in place. There were no such scenes, right? Okay. Lively requested that no one enter her trailer while she was in this. Okay, so this is outlining, these were all of her demands. So Lively requested X. This is why, like, that was already in place or whatever. So Lively requested that no one enter her trailer while she was in the state of undress, redacted, but we've already kind of talked about that. Lively requested an A-list stunt double provided by herself to rehearse and perform any scenes depicting rape or SV. An offer letter setting out the basic terms of Lively's participation already provided that Lively had approval rights over any double. Other requested protections implicated Lively's own conduct. Here we go. Lively requested that there was to be no spontaneous improvising of any scenes involving involving physical touching, simulated sex, or nudity. On May 19th, Lively oversaw a scene she herself added to the script in which her character kissed Baldoni's character in every take, although there was no kiss in the script. Uh-oh. Ruh-roh. Lively requested that no comments be made concerning her personal physical appearance. Redacted. On one occasion, Lively advocated redacted. Video footage also shows Lively explaining to a group of male crew members why her boots are so sexy because they are just bone-hitting wood. I guess there's a video clip of that. So in other words, she's saying they're saying she was talking about how sexy her outfits were to the cast. Why would anyone assume then that reflecting that back at her would make her uncomfortable if it was sort of like her idea, you know? If I said, my butt looks really good in these pants, and somebody was like, your butt does look really good in those pants, I wouldn't be like, sexual harassment. That was inappropriate. I don't like that you said that. I brought it up and I wanted the compliment. Lively also commented on the physical appearance of other actors in connection with the project, both before and after issuing those demands. When discussing one potential actor in the film with Baldoni, Lively said she was meeting Taylor Swift. When discussing the marketing of the film in May 2024, Lively wrote to a younger male cast member. Yikes, I wonder what that says. Some of the texts that have come out that she's written to Baldoni are really uncomfy, really uncomfy. So, yeah, she is kind of like Ryan. She says sexually explicit stuff a lot in a really cringy way, but that's just my opinion. But not my opinion that she says sexually explicit stuff to people, including married men and stuff like that, right? Because Baldoni's married. Lively requested there be no physical touching, including hugging of herself, her on-set personnel, and or her employees. She had complained that there was too much hugging on set, and so now she's saying no touching me or my employees. Lively herself had initiated hugs with Baldoni, and as had several members of her staff. More broadly, all staff members had engaged in large. I wonder if that's group hug. A producer on the set observed blank, probably just supports their thing. Video footage shows Baldoni hugging male members of the cast and crew as well. So basically they're saying this isn't gender specific. He wasn't only hugging you and he wasn't only hugging women. He's just a hugger. He was hugging a lot of people. Yeah, maybe that is inappropriate and maybe that's a lesson for him to learn. Some people are just huggers and a lot of people don't like that. They don't like to be hugged without their consent, but what they're saying is not only was she going around hugging people, including Justin with her initiation, but Baldoni hugged all kinds of people on set. He is a hugger, okay? Lively requested there were to be no discussion of personal experiences with sex or nudity. Lively had previously volunteered to Baldoni details of her personal sex life. Nice. Lively's list also included several items that were wholly unrelated to her sex, gender, or physical appearance, including demands that Baldoni not speak to her dead father, mention her own religious beliefs, or ask for hers, or have private multi-hour meeting in Lively's trailer with Mr. Baldoni crying, as well as a demand that Lively receive notice of COVID exposures on set. So basically, yeah, I mean, if these are your complaints, then that's fine, but they're not sexual harassment. On November 11th, Mazian explained to Lively's representatives that certain of the 17 protections were not viable. On December 15th, Lively's counsel sent Mazian a draft side letter A draft of what Lively's first amended complaint refers to as the contract writer agreement. In an accompanying email, Lively's counsel stated that the draft side letter, redacted, following further negotiations on or about January 19th, Heath, acting on behalf of the studio, signed the CRA as a writer to the long form agreement that was contemplated in the offer letter. A true and correct copy of the executed CRA is in this document. The parties of the draft CRA were the two companies. There was a provision in it stating there shall be no retaliation of any kind against artists for raising concerns about the conduct described in this letter or for these requirements. Any changes in attitude, sarcasm, marginalization, or other negative behavior, either on set or otherwise, including during publicity and or promotional work as a result of these requests, is retaliatory and unacceptable and will be met with immediate action. Okay? Kind of confused a little bit on which side is saying that, so we're going to keep moving. Maybe it'll become clear. The CRA expressly stated that it reflected additional terms and conditions which shall be deemed incorporated into the ALA. The first whereas clause of the CRA states that parties wish to confirm the conditions under which lender has agreed to cause artists to render acting blah blah blah. This is a lot of words I don't understand. At the time of the CRA was executed, no long-form agreement had been signed, nor had the terms of any long-form agreement been finalized. So I think they're saying, like, she never signed the initial agreement. But, like, we sent it to her, but she didn't sign it, I think is what they're saying, because that's what I had understood. The CRA did not include any admission or acknowledgement of inappropriate conduct or that any of the conduct prohibited in the writer had ever occurred. So they're basically saying, like, by signing this, I'm not acknowledging guilt. I'm just saying that going forward, this stuff will continue to not happen. Wayfarer Studios was not a party to the CRA. Oh, okay. Lively has not provided any evidence that the compensation she received for her work was reduced following her demand for protections. Following Lively's insistence on the list of protections and the execution of the CRA, her role in the production and involvement in the film was not constrained or diminished in any way. Instead, Lively's control over the film continued to expand. On December 28th, 2023, Baldoni wrote that although he was angry and upset about letting Blake take over a film and rewrite a movie we spent years developing, writing, and funding, I am waving the white flag and submitting. I am going to give her 98% of what she wants. I saw this email. I wonder if we're going to get to it. But yeah, this is like a quote from an email that he was talking to his like other producers and Sarowitz and all that stuff, being like, at this point, I'm exhausted. I don't know what else to do. She's rewritten the script. She has her own copy of the movie and she's going to do what the fuck she wants to do. And I just feel like there's nothing I can do at this point. And it breaks my heart, but it is what it is. Lively and her husband make additional demands during a meeting at her home. Okay, so this is the infamous meeting at her penthouse in New York City where Taylor Swift arrived, I believe. On January 4th, Lively, Baldoni, Heath, and others met at Lively's apartment at Lively's request. During the meeting, Lively read a longer list of demands off her phone. In addition to the protections discussed above, these demands appear to refer to several incidents Lively had raised previously, including Baldoni's reference to circumcision in their first meeting, his discreet inquiry about her weight in April 2023, and the events she had discussed in June 2023, such as the birth video she was shown by Heath and Baldoni's references to his prior pornography addiction, as well as personal experiences with sex. Okay, so basically they're saying like all the things that she had come to us back in the summer and told us to our faces, like, by the way, all this stuff made me uncomfortable. She's now kind of putting into writing. Yeah. Although the attendees were stunned by the nature of the meeting, they made efforts to assuage Lively's anger through neither Heath nor Baldoni admitted any wrongdoing. So basically they're saying like, I'm not saying that it was sexual harassment. I'm not saying that I did something inappropriate, but I am saying, like, I'm sorry. Sarowitz was not present at the meeting that took place. He does not recall exactly when he learned about the meeting. Sarowitz recalls speaking to Baldoni about the meeting at some point in time, but does not know the exact date they spoke. So he's saying, like, this is, I think, part of his testimony. He's like, I don't remember when it was exactly. Sarowitz was never aware that anyone ever referred to the meeting as an HR complaints meeting. He was aware that she sent a list of demands to return to work, which were honored. Sarowitz has no knowledge of anyone at Wayfarer Studios committed any of the acts implied in the list of demands. So he's saying, like, I wasn't aware that any of this actually did happen. He understood that Wayfarer Studios acceded to Lively's list of demands under duress and with a caveat saying that the studio did not necessarily agree with the demands. Under the time Lively provided her list of demands, representatives from Wayfarer Studios spoke to counsel who advised there were no events that they felt would require an investigation. After making her protection demands, Lively revised several scenes to be more sexually charged. I'm sorry. In a revision of probably some specific scene, Lively explained that she was trying to redacted in her revised scene redacted. Basically, like, I think they're saying, like, she made it more explicit. This is exactly how she did that. In the second phase of filming, including all of Lively's intimate scenes, proceeded without incident. Just checking if my kiddo is still sleeping. The second phase of filming took place primarily on a New Jersey set with a few additional days in California. But that day, Lively told Slate, redacted. There's a bunch of redacted stuff here, so I don't really know. Like, I have no way to know what the context of this is. So Lively exercise. This is point M. Lively exercised near total control over the second half of production. So this is when her and I think Ryan really start to try to take control of this movie. She used the influence of her famous friends to take over the film entirely. On or about February 2020, February 22nd, 2024, Lively told Sony that she would not agree to promote the film unless she was permitted to participate in the edit. During the ensuing weeks, Lively redacted. Lively told famous friends redacted. She also did not hesitate to disparage Baldoni among her Hollywood crowd, describing him blank, 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 blank. Lively urged blank, as well as her famous friends. I wonder when the writing of the Deadpool movie was done, because he, as in Ryan, made a character in that movie called Nice Pool that was very clearly meant to be mocking Justin. Had a ponytail, he was like a feminist, all this kind of stuff. It was very clearly mocking Justin. And I wonder when that was written. And also, Ryan is so jealous. What an insecure loser. I'm sorry. Um, Lively also demanded changes to the film's credits, including, oh, that's so sad. She wanted to remove the credit saying "It Ends With Us" was a film by Justin Baldoni altogether. Wow. Here's the thing. If actual harassment happened on set, then her wanting to retaliate against him for that would make sense. Now, I don't not that doesn't mean it's right, but so far we have no evidence that that's happened, and a lot of the evidence that she's claimed, we've seen the footage of and stuff, and it's very much mischaracterized. So, it's like, knowing that as far as we can tell, this isn't true, it's just fucking evil, you know? Okay, we'll keep going here. My cat wants to come snuggle, so I'm gonna go get the heating pad and get her cozy over here with me. I'll be back. Okay, now my cat's taken my blanket, so I had to put on a sweater. Okay, so she removed the credit. Um, Lively also insisted Baldoni's image be removed from marketing materials and the film's poster, which ultimately just featured Lively herself. This is a bunch of redacted content about probably the conversations around this stuff. Um, so the film premiered in August. It was released to the public on August 9th, and Lively and her husband took steps to harm Baldoni's reputation. So, in other, they're about to get into, you claimed we ran a smear campaign against you, but you tried to smear our reputation. You are the one that was trying to ruin my reputation, not the other way around. Hopping in to say, if you're liking this video, please subscribe to the channel. I'm going to do a follow-up video in the next couple of days if I get enough traction on this one. This is taking a lot of time, but I want to go over the last bit of the motion for summary judgment and then go through the exhibits. I've seen some of them already, and wow, I think they have a lot of really good evidence. And so I'm really excited to get into it. And I just want to let you guys know that if interest on this video, I will take the time to do that. But I don't want to like spend all the time doing it if people aren't interested. So let me know if you're interested. And with all of that said, let's get into it. About July 17th, during the filming hiatus and before Present Further Protections demands, Lively and her husband Ryan unfollowed Baldoni on Instagram. After the conclusion of filming and leading up to the premiere, Lively and her husband Ryan openly attacked and disparaged Baldoni, seeking to tarnish his reputation in Hollywood, including among their friends and their famous and powerful friends, as well as with fellow cast members and in the media. Okay, so it's a bunch of redacted content, but I imagine that this is why we saw all of the cast supporting her and like being with her at all the premiere and stuff, because whatever she said to them, whatever she claimed to them, they were like, oh my God, yeah, of course, what a monster. Well, we got you, we've got your back. Or she said, if you stick with me, here's what I claim happened, and if you stick with me, trust me, I can help you get where you want to go. I'm in. I have me, it's Ryan Reynolds, it's Sony, like I can get you what you want, I can get you parts, I can put you in movies. Don't you worry, I got your back. Just be with me. On or about June 20th, a promotional event for the film was held at a book bonanza, Hoover's annual romance book convention. Baldoni was not permitted to attend. In July, Lively excluded Baldoni from a marketing shoot for the film conducted by her husband's marketing company, Maximum Effort. Lively, like literally, she's taken over the film. She's creating marketing materials for the film. I'm sorry, what? The fucking delusion, dude. Lively and others at Sony were aware that the media, including social media, was picking up on Lively's efforts to alienate Baldoni. I remember seeing this stuff and I was like, I wonder what is going on. And I was sending my friends messages being like, this is so niche and you probably don't give a shit, but I'm so wondering what happened on this set because I had followed Baldoni like a little bit. I knew of him and I knew of the kind of stuff he wrote and like did the kind of content that he did. And I really respected his efforts to like talk about masculinity. So I was wondering, like, why is he not present at any of these events? Like, why is he not with the rest of the cast? And of course, their PR people were probably putting out content saying, like, Baldoni absent from the PR. What's going on? Trying to make him look bad. He must have done something. Lively took steps to exclude Baldoni from the premiere of his own film. I wonder what all this redacted stuff said, but we may never know. Ultimately, Baldoni and the Wayfarer team were not allowed to be on the red carpet during the premiere, except during specified times when Lively was not present. Baldoni and his team were required to be in a basement while Lively conducted her red carpet pictures and then view the film on a separate screen. Baldoni, Heath, and Wayfarer retained a crisis PR firm to assist and advise them in the face of growing adverse media attention. So this is when the media started to pick up on this and being like, what did he do? The whole cast and crew, Colleen Hoover, everybody seems to be, not whole cast and crew, I'm sorry. The main actors and Colleen Hoover seem to be all together on this, and he's alone. What happened? He must have done something wrong. For years prior to the events at issue here, Jen Abel, a public relations professional, had worked with Wayfarer and Baldoni on PR matters. Wayfarer and Baldoni were concerned that any adverse media would harm the reception and success of the film. Even as the negative press intensified, Wayfarer gave Abel and her colleagues explicit instructions to not place any story that was negative about Blake or otherwise. Our main focus was to mitigate the negative press that was breaking organically from the press tour. Okay, so they're saying, like, we weren't putting out anything negative about her. Wayfarer and Baldoni told us, please do not put anything negative about her. Please just try to mitigate anything negative about us. Okay. On July 24th, Heath and Abel agreed that redacted in response to the swirling press rumors. But whatever's redacted here, they're making the point that they did not conduct a smear campaign, right? They're making that point, and the way that we know that is because they're saying everything needs to be dismissed in response to the swirling press rumors. On or about July 25th, Baldoni and Heath first met with TAG, Melissa Nathan's PR firm, to discuss the possibility of retaining the firm for crisis PR. A TAG employee's notes from the meeting state that Wayfarer was not going to fire offensive bullets, but wanted to have a strategy. So they're evidencing that, like, it was never Wayfarer's intent to smear her. On July 26, TAG circulated a proposed scope of work and included providing support for Baldoni and others with independent strategic counsel, curating statements, background information, and talking points for the press reflecting Wayfarer's core values, key messaging, and the integral role they played to bring this film to life, developing a scenario planning document, identifying third-party validators, working to mitigate negative stories and correct inaccuracies, and monitoring coverage, as well as providing input on the press strategies and media training. Wayfarer president wrote to Stephanie Jones, redacted. I imagine that says, like, again, kind of reiterating, we don't want anything negative. Wayfarer hired TAG and Nathan on August 2nd. On August 2nd, TAG circulated a scenario planning document listing a series of possible options for responding to the public relations crisis facing Baldoni and Wayfarer. Nathan has testified that the document was not an approved action plan, but only a preliminary document for the purpose of scenario planning, with each suggestion being only a possibility. This is not definitive. So this is when they're saying, like, we said we can do these things. This is part of what we do. This isn't what we're going to do. This is not the agreed upon plan. We are proposing to you, like, the possibilities, and you could decide what you want to go with. On August 4th, employees exchanged messaging discussing blah, 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 because they blah, blah, blah. Okay. And sorry, this is all redacted. In the days after the premiere, negative press against Baldoni intensified. Additional cast members unfollowed Baldoni on social media at Lively's prompting. See Exhibit 171. I guess we'll maybe see what that is. On the 8th, The Hollywood Reporter published an article entitled, Did Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni have a rift over It Ends With Us? Sleuthing TikTokers think so. That's, I think, around when I caught on. The article discussed Baldoni being excluded from the press film and unfollowed by Lively and other cast members. On August 8th, Lively's PR rep, Leslie Sloan, redacted. Sloan testified, redacted. Sloan testified. I wonder if this says, like, testified that they did that they were conducting negative articles about him or guiding that narrative. Heath, Abel, and Nathan did not want to add any fuel to the fire by prompting additional adverse media. In particular, they told Jones not to contact the press about Lively. Upon learning that Jones had done so, on August 9th, Heath wrote to Jones, redacted. The Daily Mail published an article on August 9th, disturbing truth behind why Blake Lively and It Ends With Us stars are feuding with Justin Baldoni. They linked to the article. The article quoted sources asserting Baldoni was chauvinistic and borderline abusive on set. It also noted rumors of a vicious feud between Lively and Baldoni had been swirling for weeks, with online sleuths highlighting the on-screen love interests were not pictured together at the U.S. premiere. That day, Lively's agent wrote to Blake something. Probably like, it's working. All right, so this is when they hired Street Relations. I think that's Jed Wallace's company to monitor the social media. Abel wrote Nathan, I think we really need to put social combat plan into motion. She noted that she was waiting on a green light from Heath to do so. So in other words, they're saying like still up to this point, we have not gone on the offensive. We've just been defending ourselves and kind of mitigating negative press about Baldoni. On the 8th, Nathan proposed a quote for a new scope of work that included additional social media engagement. On or about the 9th, Wayfarer engaged Jed Wallace's firm, Street Relations, to monitor the social media discussing concerning Lively, Baldoni in the film. Jed Wallace has testified that his firm did not surreptitiously spread negative information about Lively and has no ability to do so. She started to suffer backlash. Baldoni himself repeatedly made comments about Lively in the press in August. I think positive. I don't think he said anything negative about Blake. Melissa Nathan confirmed to Sloan that she was not probably like doing anything. On August 8th, Nathan also told her own sister, gossip reporter Sarah Nathan, that she had not contacted reporters on Baldoni's behalf and did not intend to do so. Some redacted content about the PR stuff. And this is PR. Like, this is kind of how it works. When you see articles coming out, like, that is somebody's PR team doing something a lot of the time, especially by particular organizations. Hi, my cat is so cozy right now. August 11th, the New York Times published an article entitled "What It Ends With Us Says About the Blake Lively Brand." The article discussed Lively's efforts to cross-promote the film and her personal hair care and alcohol brands, as well as her husband's brand of gin. For instance, it stated a promotional email explained how to make It Ends With Us inspired cocktails using Betty Buzz. One recipe called for Reynolds gin. It's a cheery gimmick that seems awkwardly out of step with the context of the film itself, which tells the story of a woman dealing with domestic violence. So they're basically saying, like, this is organic negative press. Like, people are like, why is she promoting an alcohol brand while promoting a movie about DV when the primary, like, not cause, but exacerbator of DV is alcohol? Is so tone deaf and stupid. There is no evidence that the defendants played any role in this article. So this is not their doing, right? On August 13th, something happened. Nathan privately observed to Abel that there was a completely unsolicited story from TMZ. Blake has a huge ego. Justin Baldoni was likely liked by many cast members and crew, and this is her ego being bruised. Come here, Lila. Are you a little hot? I don't know if you guys have seen my cat. She has a cast. She fractured her toe. Ridiculous. Get really cozy now. Many cast and crew, and this is her ego being bruised. Abel responded, not from any of us, obviously. Nathan agreed, totally not from us. Abel concluded, these are clearly people on set coming out to defend Baldoni, which is good, and we should just let them do their thing. In other words, this isn't us. We're not saying anything bad about her as the PR company. And also, positive stuff is coming out about Justin that we're also not behind, like, organically. The same day, Lively wrote to another male cast member, redacted. The cast member responded, redacted. Okay, so we see they're kind of like building a case that people were not like loving her right now in this moment, and that was organic. Prior to these events, Lively had also been criticized for problematic on-set behavior while working on the TV show Gossip Girl. Lively's third amended response to Wayfarer Studios, these criticisms resurfaced in August of 2024, for instance, redacted. And this might be talking about how she got one of her makeup artists on Gossip Girl fired for sexual harassment when he used his finger to put lipstick on her lip. Okay, I want everybody to let that sink in. This is either a person who is malicious or this is a person who is deeply insecure and traumatized by something and is like through that lens m- misinterpreting um what is the word I'm looking for? Innocuous events, right? As negative sentiment towards Lively accelerated, Baldoni asked his PR team to confirm that it was not using bots or fake accounts to generate positive sentiment for him online. Abel and Nathan both confirmed that they were not using bots or fake accounts. So, in other words, in okay, so as organic negative press was happening about Lively, Baldoni specifically wanted to make sure that they were not conducting any sort of negative PR against her, including but not limited to bots and fake accounts, which is what he's been accused of and what like a lot of people on Reddit believe that he obviously did. They just don't know the details. August 19th, Baldoni asked Nathan about the negative sentiment towards Lively online. He wrote, "This is not us, correct?" Nathan responded, "None of us would ever do this. There is this struggle where it's kind of maybe even unbelievable the way that people are turning against her, but they are organically. It's organic. She's blown herself up by her own actions." Cites an article describing Lively's past use of a transgender slur. Nice. This just ran. Obviously, none of us knew about this either. But once media goes in, they go in. You did not do any of these. We did not do any of these, and this is all organic. Yikes. No smear campaign. On August 27th, Baldoni privately discussed with Nathan that he had no intention to make Lively or anyone an outcast, and told Nathan he was praying for Lively and Reynolds. This just makes him look, I know that this is a PR thing, but like it makes him look like the person that I had in my mind. Wow, I've been going for an hour and over an hour and a half. We're gonna have to wrap this up pretty soon. On August 27th, Baldoni wrote to Heath, Nathan, and Abel definitely don't want to place stories and yet just want to change the narrative. Heath subsequently responded, "Let's stay the course and not react." Abel agreed, "We want to keep our participation with press to a minimum and keep steering the narrative into other things where we can." Okay. All right, so this is a lot of redacted content. I think I'm gonna skip most of it. It's basically just saying, like, not only that, but Blake and Ryan were trying to make Justin look bad in the press. During this period, defendants believe that Lively's press team was spreading negative misinformation or negative information about Baldoni using bots. No, no. Lively failed to uncover proof that defendants spread false information. So I'm not going to go through all of this. I'm just going to tell you they conducted a full discovery trying to understand whether a smear campaign had happened because they were so sure it had, and they didn't find any proof of it. Lively also points to an incident in which certain defendants spoke to the press about Lively herself. None of these incidents involved sharing any factual falsehoods about Lively. Instead, they involved pointing out true facts about Lively or her husband's conduct or sharing negative opinions of that conduct. And so much of this is redacted. We don't really have the context. So they're talking about the little bump video. I don't know if you guys saw that go around where the interviewer comments that she has a little bump and then she like snarkily says back to her that she has a little bump. And you're like, you had announced that you were pregnant. And she was just like congratulating you on your pregnancy, you horrid bitch. Okay, sorry. Sarowitz played no role in marketing the film or Wayfarer's publicity. Okay, so we're gonna skip this. Because it's Sarowitz stuff, and basically it's saying like we have evidence that he didn't do anything. That had nothing to do with any of this. Okay, so Sarowitz had a call, but this is important because there Lily said that that there was an audio that leaked where Sarowitz says something that makes her fear for her life. And this is that. So Sarowitz had a call with Claire Ayub on August 29th where Ayub recorded it. During the conversation, Sarowitz stated the following: "It ends with us. Drama is simply that. It is a drama. I'm done with it. It's going to happen when it's going to happen, you know? Whatever is going to happen, whatever people want to think, they're going to think. I was worried about it at one point, and now I just want to let the chips fall where they may. If they like us, great. If they don't, they don't. We are who we are. They went after everything we had. Luckily, I was so out of it. So like nobody mentioned me. That's because I'm a nobody. I'm like nobody, you know? Justin never had a bad set, yet it was the worst set he has ever been on. But no, it wasn't bad. I was there on set. It was just, you know, Justin is really kind and loving, and he is like Rain, actually, Rain Wilson. Actually, Rain is running a set. It is a Baha'i set, and it is never going to be like that. No, everything was made up. It was manufactured. Baha'i is the faith they all have. It was manufactured on purpose in order to take Justin down. I just know that for right now, it seems like detente, and then if they persist, it seems like detente, and then if they persist and they push to the limit, then we will go to court, and then it's all on me. I think he's saying like I'm gonna have to fund it and all that. In response to the question Ayub as to whether he meant protecting the studio, Sarowitz replied, "I will protect the studio like Israel protected itself from Hamas. There were 39,000 dead bodies. There will be 2 dead bodies when I'm done, you know? And so not dead, but you know, you're dead to me. So that kind of thing. That kind of dead, but dead to a lot of people. If they ever get me to that point, then I will make it worth their while because I'm going to spend a lot of money to make sure the studio is protected, but I don't think we will go there." So he's saying, so that's what Lively said made her fear for her life. A, an appropriate thing to say? Probably. A death threat? No. He further commented, "You work with so many people and almost everybody is nice. And then there's Blake, who she is totally different than everyone. Not to say anything bad about her, but she's different. She's different." And then they redact a bunch of stuff. Lively obtained documents through a sham subpoena. I talked about this earlier. My little one is about to be awake, so I'm going to have to hop off of this and we will return. I'm going to do a second part. I want to go through the rest of this document. I'm almost done with this document, but I want to go through the rest of it and then talk about the other stuff that came out about the trial. So thank you for listening. I am so curious if this is going to end up going to trial. I'm curious about what the judge is going to dismiss. I'm curious about what Lively's team is thinking right now with all of this evidence out there. It doesn't look good for her, and I think this is what I've been thinking all along, and this is what the people that have been following this, that have kind of been on Justin Baldoni's side or whatever, have thought based on the evidence that has come out, which is she mischaracterized things. She wanted control of the film. She didn't get what she wanted when she tried, so she went scorched earth, and now it's gonna backfire on her, potentially ruin her reputation. Um, and Blake and Ryan are jerks. So that's my takeaway so far. I would love to hear your thoughts. Drop them in the comments. Love you guys. We'll be back soon for the second half of this.